Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.
And I listen to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast.
Indeed you are. What, you thought I was going to wait a day to do this video? Let me tell you something. I'm doing this video and then I'm jumping straight into my bed and I'm going to sleep. But the culture demands it. The support fan base demands it. They said, Mash, give us the reaction video. West Indies have won the second ODI. They've won the series versus UAE. Get the word out on the street, people. We back up. We really back up. We out here. It's going to be a quick one. My name is Machel St. Patrick here, one half of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. And welcome to another edition, another episode, as we reflect on the second ODI between West Indies and the United Arab Emirates. West Indies winning the second ODI by 78 runs. We ain't going nowhere. We ain't going nowhere. We can't be stopped now because it's bad boy for life. How about that one? Yeah, so we out here. The bad boys, we back out here. West Indies 2-0 up. One more game to go. And then the IPL players will join, will come to the squad. The ones who aren't going to the World Cup will go home and will get ready for the World Cup qualifiers in earnest. So like I always say, this show is what we've brought back, and you saw it after the first ODI. It's called the Caribbean Cuss Out Show. You lot bring the cuss outs. I promised it, and I did exactly what I promised. With about 5 minutes to go in the match, I went on Twitter. I said, get your Caribbean cuss out, your hashtag Caribbean cuss outs. I said, get them in, and I will bring them onto the show, and we'll talk about what you lot have to say about that particular match. But let me just do a quick little recap. West Indies won the toss. They chose to bat first today, or in this particular second ODI, and they posted 306, a run rate of 6.14. Now, obviously, some people say, we should have been posting 350 given where West Indies were at. And let me give you a kind of standpoint. When Brandon King got out and the second wicket fell, West Indies were 151 for 2 after 21 overs. And I agree. At that particular point of the match, if you're 150 after 21 overs, yeah, you should probably be posting over 350. West Indies lost their way somewhat in the middle overs. They kept losing wickets in not like regular. Was it regularly? They just kept losing wickets in the middle section, and it wasn't until Odin Smith came in for his cameo at the back end that we even posted a score over 300. But it's worth saying, and I put it in the Caribbean Cricket Podcast Discord group. And if you want to be part of that, let me know. Get in the comments and let me know, and I'll put the link to it in the comments. But in the Discord group, when we were, I think when Hope got out and it was 249 for 7, I posted in the Discord group, we've already got enough runs. And like, because you tend to get some people, I wouldn't say complaining. Is it complaining or is it panicking about West Indies' performances? But as far as I was concerned, if you'd been watching the match, it was clear that we already had enough runs. Now, obviously, we went on to score 300. Now, bear in mind that I said after the first ODI, it's not about who you beat, because you can only beat who's in front of you. So I'm not here to hear anybody say, it's only the UAE. Whoever you're playing, you can only beat who's in front of you. I acknowledge that the West Indies should be, on paper, and are a significantly better team than the UAE. So it's not about beating them. And it's not about trying to make counterpoints and say, but it's only the UAE. You analyze how the team wins, not if they win. The first ODI, the West Indies won, and they won handsomely. And I think in that regard, because of the context of how they won, you can give them praise. This win was still a comfortable, some could say handsome victory. We clearly won this game. This game was over after 20 overs, if not less, of the UAE response. Like, everyone knew by 20 overs or 15 overs of the UAE batting reply, we're going to win this game. So at that point, it's about what you consider to be a good win. The margin of victory of 78 runs for me is still a massive victory. The game was never in any doubt. Yes, you can nitpick and say, what about this and what about that? But fundamentally, they still won and they won comfortably. Okay. That doesn't mean they're above criticism, but we have to acknowledge the fact that it was still a very, very comfortable victory. In terms of the positives that I've written down, I think King and Charles, obviously, 129 run partnership for the first wicket. Charles went at a really good lick, 134 strike rate. King went at a strike rate of 92. That was effectively, other than Noel Dean Smith, obviously, who came in at the back end, those were effectively the best strike rates in the match, in terms of the opening partnership. Nobody else really from numbers 3 down to Correa at 8 painted themselves in glory. But it's tenuous, but I do want to say that I thought Casey Carty's knock was, I'm not going to say good, but it was encouraging. And hear me out why I say that. So Casey Carty scored 32 of 39 balls, strike rate of 82. I'm not saying that's brilliant. That's not the point I'm trying to make. But I think Carty's coming under increasing scrutiny. I get why Hope sent Carty in at number 4. Obviously, we know that when the IPL players return and when the World Cup qualifiers squad gets together, Hope is going to bat at 4. But people have to understand that this series, people have to. I always say context. Forget emotion and look at context. The bulk of this squad playing this UAE series aren't in the World Cup qualifiers. So the team that played today, Johnson Charles isn't in the World Cup qualifiers. Casey Carty is actually. Johnson Charles isn't. Gavem Hodge isn't. Odean Smith isn't. Drakes isn't. Jordan isn't. So if half of the team that played today aren't going to the World Cup qualifiers, and in that context, you have to have one eye on future development. You can't just look at the team and go, all we should be caring about and all we should be thinking about is World Cup qualifier preparation. Yes, that's important. And yes, Brandon King will open. And yes, Roston Chase will be expected to bowl some off spin more than likely. And yes, Yannick Correa will be expected to probably bowl some leg spin. Who else was important in there? Shamar Brooks will be coming at number 3. Casey Carty's in the squad. We already know what Shai Hope can do. So all these people trying to say, why did Shai Hope come at 6? And they're not planning properly. They're not thinking straight. Don't get me wrong. I get where you're coming from, but we already know what Hope can do. The man has an ODI average of over 50. What's more important? Giving Casey Carty some time at the crease or making Shai Hope come and bat at number 4 when we're clearly going to win the match anyway? Yes, Shai Hope needs some time in the middle. I hear that. You're going to say he needs some prep time. So maybe for the third ODI, you say to Hope, you know what, you have to come number 4 just to make sure you actually get proper prep time ahead of the World Cup qualifiers, right? But bear in mind, all the IPL guys, they're resting at home. They ain't getting prep time. So how important is it really, right? Say a set of injuries were to befall the West Indies team during the World Cup qualifiers. Isn't Casey Carty going to have to come into the team? Who's the one who's short of international experience? Is it not Casey Carty? So I've got nothing against them sending Casey Carty at 4. Similarly, I don't really have much against sending Roston Chase at 5. Isn't he in the World Cup qualifier squad? He's in it, is he not? So Roston Chase, is he in that? He's in the World Cup qualifier squad, isn't he? Roston Chase gets in every squad. He must be in the World Cup qualifier squad. Let me just double check because I can't even. Yeah, of course, Roston Chase is in it. So isn't Roston Chase going to have to get some batting time? So I don't really have anything against Chase coming at number 5. Obviously, he sucked, but I get it. I get why you'd want to give him some time in the middle. So I don't think people should get too hung up on why did Hope come at 6 and so on and so forth. Anyways, I just realized I didn't cover the original point. I thought Carty showed an ability to get the score. I know it's only a strike rate of 82, but I think in that short stay at the crease, 37 balls, he showed some ability to hit out, tick over, strike, and so on and so forth. This is all part of the developmental processes for Casey Carty. So I was slightly encouraged by some of what I saw from him at the crease today. And then finally, the only other positive I wrote down, with the bat, obviously, was Old Dean Smith. He came in at number 9, faced 24 balls, and scored 37, strike rate of 150 odd. Basically, Old Dean Smith did to a T what we want Old Dean Smith to do when he comes in that late. Tee off, get the scorecard moving, and it was down to him that the score basically ended up being over 300. With the ball, again, technically, who won man of the match actually today? I didn't hang around to see who won man of the match. Was it Old Dean Smith? Let me check who won man of the match. Oh, it's Johnson Charles. Okay. There's an argument to say it should have been Old Dean Smith. Old Dean Smith with the ball, pick of the bowlers for me, 8 overs, 1 for 27. When the UAE came to bat, Old Dean Smith, believe it or not, had the best economy rate for the West Indies with the ball, 3.37. And I thought he bowled menacing overs. I thought he made the UAE batters uncomfortable with his extra pace and lift and bounce and so on and so forth. So I thought Old Dean Smith had a good all-round game. Again, I think Yannick Correa with his leg spin only got 1 wicket, but I think he was unfortunate to not get more. I thought they were coming out nicely out of his hand. I think the UAE batters struggled to read his leg breaks. So again, some promising signs from Yannick Correa with the ball. And also Akeem Jordan. I think going forward in the future, Akeem Jordan is probably going to be an integral part of both the West Indies test squad and more than likely limited over squads as well. He was one of the players who was in Bangladesh. He got his chance today. He came in for Chemo Paul. And Jordan, I thought, showed why he's an effective first spell bowler, he can get the ball to move both ways in terms of swing. And again, 8 overs, 1 for 36. I think Jordan was unlucky not to pick up more wickets today. So I thought it was quite an impressive showing from Akeem Jordan. So those, and I know Kavem Hodge got 2 wickets, and I know Roston Chase got 2 wickets, but I wouldn't say they were impressive. I know they got the most wickets. Wouldn't say they were impressive. They did their job, but I haven't got them in my list of standout things that I saw today. But all in all, like I say, you beat who's in front of you and you beat them well. Did West Indies beat who was in front of them? Yes. Did they beat them well? Yes. I don't want anyone to turn to me and say a 78-run victory is not a well-beaten team. Of course it is. 78 runs. You know how wide that margin of defeat is for a side that loses. It's massive, right? So, yes, in an ideal world, you would have wanted West Indies to bowl UAE all out. Yes, you would have wanted West Indies to post over 350 and so on and so forth. But the margin of victory was still a vast margin of victory. They did their job. And again, before you cuss, remember that half of the team that played today are not going to the World Cup qualifiers. More than half of the team that will be in the World Cup qualifiers are not in the UAE right now. So always bear that in mind. There is a twin focus with this UAE series. It's both on developmental pathways for players who may have a future for the West Indies, whether in test or limited overs cricket, and it's about prepping some of the few players who are going to obviously be at the World Cup qualifiers. Anyways, so it's a quick one. It's quicker than the first review show in that I'm going to go straight to your cuss outs right now and see what you lot all sent in and try my best to answer those questions. First up, Tasha 63332160. Big up Tasha. Tasha says, based on the last 2 matches and the South Africa series, what do you think is West Indies' best suit, batting or bowling first? Hard to tell because it's been different squads, different players. Like, are we better bowling first and chasing with players like a Puran and a Rovman Powell, etc., and Carl Mayers? I would say when you look at our World Cup squad, let me just read it out to people for those who don't know, right? So the West Indies World Cup qualifier squad: Shea Holt, Rovman Powell, Shamar Brooks, Yannick Correa, Casey Carty, Roston Chase, Jason Holder, Akil Hussain, Brandon King, Carl Mayers, Gudakesh Moti, Chemo Paul, Nicholas Puran, Romario Shepherd. I think there's a lot of all-rounders in that team. I think that squad is better suited. Did I say Alzara Joseph's name? What the hell? sorry, that squad's wrong. I didn't even say Alzara Joseph. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. I missed out Alzara Joseph, sorry. I think the West Indies ODI, I think the West Indies World Cup qualifying squad has got too many all-rounders, and I worry about if we would be able to contain a side with the ball if the batting did not come to fruition. I guess the point I'm making is, and I guess this is, I'm throwing Tasha's question back at you lot. What would you prefer, people? Would you be more comfortable with the idea of West Indies chasing down a score to win or trying to protect a score? I think at this juncture, before the World Cup qualifiers start, I'd rather see us try and chase than protect, because I'm not convinced that we've got the bowling to protect whatever we get with the bat. But obviously, it depends on conditions and so on and so forth. CB Jamboy says, do you have any concerns about our batting in the middle overs? The scoring momentum went down once Chase came in. Winning was inevitable, but was today's win comprehensive enough? It's almost like I didn't see your question before I started my spiel at the top. I think the win was comprehensive enough. I think we're being picky if we're going to say that a 78-run victory isn't comprehensive. Like I say, for those who watched the game, most of the game was done by the 15th over. To me, that means it's a comprehensive. Everyone knew what was going to happen by we were just watching the match for the sake of watching the match. So to me, that makes it a comprehensive victory. In terms of the middle overs, sometimes you have to be careful that we don't look for something to fit a pre-existing narrative. Yes, the narrative is that West Indies struggle in the middle overs. Today, did we struggle in the middle overs? It wasn't so much that we struggled, because there's different types of struggle. The struggle today, for me, was we lost too many wickets in the middle overs to loose shots. But did we struggle to rotate the strike today? No. Let's look at the scorecard. Brooks scored his 20 of 22 balls. Carty scored his 32 of 39 balls. Hope scored his 23 of 25 balls. Kavem Hodge scored his 26 of 28 balls. So it wasn't so much a struggle in the middle overs in terms of not being able to keep the scorecard ticking over. It was that we lost our wickets in kind of clumps, and too many of the dismissals were soft. Okay, so that's more my issue. So I don't know if today's batting performance fit the narrative per se, because when I think about West Indies and struggle in the middle overs, I'm thinking we can't even rotate strike. And I think we actually were doing that today. It was more so giving the wickets away to nothing shots. FPL Pakistani says, what was Hope coming at 6 all about? I personally think he's best suited to be in the number 3. And does Charles deserve to be in Zimbabwe? Quite a lot there. Okay, so I think I've already answered the Hope coming at 6 part. I think they just wanted to give Carty and Chase. Remember, Carty and Chase are in the World Cup qualifiers squad. I think they wanted to give them some time at the crease. Hope shouldn't need time at the crease. He's already our best player. Does a guy who's got an average over 50 need to have extensive time at the crease before the World Cup qualifiers? I would say no. If you lot are saying yes, then are we worried then that Puran and Rovman Powell and Carl Mayers are resting in the Caribbean before heading to the World Cup qualifiers? In terms of, is he best suited at number 3? So if he went 3, where's Brooks going? You want Brooks at 4? I don't really mind Hope being at 4. Maybe the issue really that you've got in your question is, where do you think Brooks should go? Maybe that's the bigger issue. And in terms of Charles deserving to be in Zimbabwe, let's not succumb to recency bias. Okay, yes, Charles hit 63 or 40 odd today and looked really fluent. Johnson Charles wasn't even supposed to be in this squad. He's only there because Devon Thomas has caught a case from the ICC or the AUC, or ACU, I should say. If Devon Thomas hadn't caught that case, Johnson Charles wouldn't even be in the squad. So we can't rush to Johnson Charles has turned up in UAE and he looks really good, as he has in T20 cricket for West Indies recently. So let's just take him to the World Cup. Desmond Haynes has already said that unless there is an injury, nobody from this UAE touring squad who's not in the World Cup qualifying squad will be added to the World Cup qualifying squad. I think that squad that they named for the World Cup qualifiers had to be kind of registered with the ICC, so you can't add additional names to it. Sorry, people. Tyrell, TJ Ordain, or is it Ordine? Anyways, big up Tyrell. I think it's Tyrell. Tyrell says, why why Chase is still in the team and he's not contributing with the bat? Is it possible that the management can try Athanaze and Sinclair for the final ODI? Plus, why do we always stumble in the middle overs? Okay, let's break that down. I don't know why Chase is in the team. I can only assume every West Indies team since I've been watching West Indies cricket has always had that one player where everybody assumes it's some kind of insularity pick. It is hard. Anybody who's been watching Caribbean Cricket Podcast from time, go look at our archives. I've been making videos about Ruston Chase back when nobody was saying drop Ruston Chase. I'm old school. From 2019, 2020, I've been saying drop Ruston Chase. Go check my receipts. My receipts are out there. I'm now at a point 3 years later where Ruston has defeated me. I've accepted that Ruston is Thanos. I've given up. I've given up saying drop Ruston Chase. Ruston Chase to the world. Never drop Ruston Chase because he's never getting dropped anyway. I don't know what you lot want me to say. I don't know. I have to assume it's Bayesian bias because he doesn't have the body of work over a significant period of time to justify always getting picked. But that said, I rally around Ruston Chase said same way because what else can I do? Sorry. Athanaze and Sinclair, will they play in the final ODI? Yes, I assume. Of course they will. They're not going to the World Cup, so of course they will play. So I would expect to see who should drop out. Chase should drop out for Sinclair. Although Hodge might actually. I think Chase or Hodge will drop out for Sinclair. And Athanaze will play for Carty, maybe. But I expect to see them play in the final ODI. And again, I'm not going to answer the middle overs one. I feel like I answered that one already from CB Jam Boy's question. Joel at Gwillan Joel. Remember, people, all these ats that I'm bringing up, go follow these people on Twitter. Big up the Caribbean Cricket Podcast fan base. Make sure you go follow them, people. Go interact, so on and so forth. Joel says, how do you feel about us getting all out when we were just one ball shy of our allotted overs? Not bothered. I don't think that. I know there's that whole thing about you must bat out your overs, but like I say, again, when Hope got out, it was 249 for 7. I already thought we had more than enough runs on the board at that stage, and we would have won with that 249 if we'd been bowled out for 249. I think first things first in any sport, first thing first is get the W. Worry about the kind of things to learn and the negatives and the marginals and where this could have been better and that and so on and so forth. Worry about all that stuff after. Did you get the W and was it a comfortable W? Yes and yes. So am I bothered that we didn't see out all our overs? No, because the margin of the W was massive. But yes, as a marginal gain, we should always have the aim of make sure you bat out your overs. Last question for the Caribbean Cuss Out show. At Simon the Lane, Simon says, batting at their full potential, do you think Mayers or Charles which one is the better player? Also, what bowler and batter would you add to the squad from this series? Okay, so let's deal with the second question first. No one can be added to the World Cup squad from this series, but if we could, if we were to suddenly do like some kind of hindsight pick and say we should add this guy and we should add this guy, if it was me, let me go back to the original World Cup squad. I would. No one really. Batter. Have I seen anybody with the? Okay. This isn't what I'm saying should happen, but if you going along with the question that you said, you'd put Johnson Charles in the World Cup squad, and you'd drop one of Brooks or Carty, and then you'd probably move King down to number 3. So you might open with Charles and Mayers and put King at 3 instead of Brooks or Carty or something like that. So that's one change. I'm not saying I'd do that, but I'm just answering your question. And then in terms of a bowler, although we've not seen Kevin Sinclair yet play in the ODIs, so this sounds like a silly answer, but I'd drop Roston Chase and I'd play Kevin Sinclair instead. Although I'm granted we've not actually seen Kevin Sinclair play in this ODI series. We'll probably see him in the third ODI. And then batting at their full potential, who do you think is better, Mayers or Charles? It's got to be Carl Mayers. Carl Mayers has the highest ceiling, but I feel like Johnson Charles has had a really good kind of renaissance and comeback in both domestic and international cricket in the last year. But if we're talking about who's got the higher ceiling, has to be Carl Mayers for me. And that's as a multi-format player. But again, people, if you disagree with me, get in the comments below. Listen, quick show, like I said, quick 25 minutes. Thank you to everybody who sent in the Caribbean cuss outs. Even as I'm recording this, see what I mean? I just went to Twitter to see, did anybody send out a last minute cuss out? So do you know what? Because I'm live recording this, let me bring in this cuss out. Let me bring it in because I just saw one come up on the screen, and let me not do this man dirty. So let's do this last cuss out, people. Here we go. Let me bring it up. Here we go. At Scarcher99 says, do you think we should reshuffle a bit and give the persons on the bench a run in the final game? Yes. So who's not played yet? Sinclair needs to come in. Athanaze needs to come in. And Raymond Reefer needs to come in. None of those three are in the World Cup qualifying squad, but all of those three should get a game. So for me, Athanaze for Carty, Sinclair for Chase, Reefer for Chemo Paul should come back in as well. I think he's got to get some miles in his legs ahead of the World Cup qualifiers. So Reefer probably for Odean Smith. So what am I saying? So let me say that again. Athanaze for Carty, Sinclair for Chase, Reefer for Odean Smith, and Chemo Paul probably back in for Dominic Drakes. Just because I think, again, it's important to make sure Chemo has some... Remember, Chemo was in the IPL, but he didn't play in the IPL. And I'm just worried about the lack of competitive game time that Chemo has had ahead of the World Cup qualifiers. So I'd bring Chemo Paul back in for the third ODI as well. Listen, thank you to all of you. How many questions was that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Thank you to the 7 of you who sent in the cuss outs. You've got to get in there early, people. I didn't know I was going to record this one tonight, but I just felt like I should get out of the way because tomorrow night I'm actually doing some commentary for the BBC, Kent versus Essex in the T20 Blast. So I wouldn't have had time to do it if I didn't record it now tonight. As usual, get in the comments below. Follow the Caribbean Cricket Podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Carib Cricket. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast on all of our platforms, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. For the Facebook, just search the Caribbean Cricket Podcast on Facebook and you'll find the group and I'll let you in as long as you press join, etc. And if you want to be part of our Discord chat, let me know in the comments below. I'll send you the link and you can be part of our Discord group as well. If you'd like to support the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, head to www.patreon.com/Carib Cricket. It's you who keeps us going. It's you who keeps us going, who keeps us on the road. We have no sponsor, but we still out here. I've been Machel St. Patrick here at one half of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. Thank you and good night.
We rule the cricket world. Now the rules seem coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.